Part 22. I will never drink again in the future. The events of last night still left a shadow in my heart. Xuan Huaifeng deliberately avoided Bai Xuelan's bedroom, went around the back of the rockery, and walked along the pond to the small dining room. When the servant saw him coming, he hurriedly served him a bowl of warm porridge with wolfberry and red dates, a plate of chicken feet with white glutinous rice, a steamed pork ball, and a plate of green vegetables boiled in water. Xuan Huaifeng asked, "Is there no white porridge?" The servant smiled. "I do have white porridge, but you should eat this today. The chef in the kitchen woke up before dawn and cooked it for you." "How do you say it? It's time to give a face, shouldn't it?" Xuan Huaifeng was even more curious. "How do you say that?" "Adjutant Xuan, goji berries improve eyesight. Red dates nourish blood." The servant pointed to the white-crusted chicken feet on the small dining table. "Where are the chicken feet?" "It's the shape that fills the shape. Besides, if you have a wound on your body, you can't eat soy sauce, otherwise the wound will be healed, and it will leave a black mark. These days, I think you should avoid it." Xuan Huaifeng couldn't help laughing. "How can there be so many rules? You are even more nagging than our Zhang Mama." Slowly, he smiled again, becoming suspicious. "Who called all these things?" With a smile on his face, "No one. We have a little filial piety right now." Xuan Huaifeng asked directly, "Is it the chief?" Seeing Xuan Huaifeng's face, he slapped himself lightly, and muttered, "Useless thing." Then, he smiled at Xuan Huaifeng. "Adjutant Xuan, you are very capable and wise, you can guess right away. You are in. You must not fight with the chief. You two are fighting each other, and we will be unlucky." The chief said, "You are not allowed to teach him that he has an explanation. He said he is afraid that you will know that he ordered, and you will be angry. If you think about it, we will be blessed." He smiled at him and bowed again. Xuan Huaifeng glanced at the table, and there were all kinds of tastes. He took a long sigh. He picked up the half-warm wolfberry and red dates porridge, took a sip, frowned and said, "I'm not used to this taste. You can give me a bowl of white porridge. This. If you don't change it, I will be too lazy to give. You guys are doing this and that." The servant had to give him a bowl of white porridge instead. Xuan Huaifeng took a few tender rape seeds and drank half a bowl of white porridge, which was more comfortable than the wolfberry and red dates porridge just now. But there is always someone standing beside him, watching, and it feels extra weird. "You didn't eat breakfast?" Xuan Huaifeng put down the bowl and made a gesture to ask the servants to sit down together. "No, no." The servant waved his hand and said, "I ate it earlier." After standing there for a while, he asked tentatively, "Adjutant Xuan, this pork ball, isn't it delicious? Early in the morning, eat it. This thing is weird. You try one. Try it." Xuan Huaifeng heard something, thought about it, and raised his head. "What's the point of this?" Seeing that there was no one left or right, he whispered. The chief said, "If you eat a pork ball, you will reward me with $1. If you eat a few, you will be rewarded with a few dollars. The chief will not let you know about this." Xuan Huaifeng was startled. Funny again and annoyed. "I looked at the people in this mansion and bought and sold me like an imported product. You tell me, are you not afraid that I will report to the chief? We are embarrassed. I just thought, why should I hide it from you? Besides, the chief is for your own good, not to harm you. Do you know what's the big deal?" Xuan Huaifeng got up and thought about how to avoid Bai Xuelan. "Judging from what happened last night, if we meet today, 80% of them will be unhappy." Now that this servant came in midway, and said Bai Xuelan's name a few times, he wasn't as impatient as he thought. "Okay." Xuan Huaifeng put a ball in his mouth, chewed it slowly, and reminded, "I made $1 for you, don't forget it." By the way, your eyes are very bright, you are a newcomer. Yes. The youngest is called Fu San, and I'm new to the White Mansion. Xuan Huaifeng stood up, took the tea and rinsed, then said with a smile, you can do it well here. The servant is very rich. If you have any news in the future, you can also talk to me. If you can make more money, I will help you a little bit. After speaking, he walked out the door. Fu San's face looked like flowers were blooming, and he thanked him loudly behind him. After leaving the small dining room, Xuan Huaifeng stopped in the back corridor. Where to go at this moment, there is some hesitation. Taking the initiative to go to Bai Xuelan, I was really embarrassed. When I met, I didn't know what to say. Moreover, God knows what good things will happen when Bai Xuelan becomes crazy. It's better to go and look at the outlines of the customs. A while ago, I was in a mess. And I didn't do any serious things, and the tax reform I mentioned couldn't be improved. While Bai Xuelan is going to recover from his injury, it is better to do something real. Xuan Huaifeng made up his mind and went to the room to get the book. After only turning a few steps, he happened to bump into the servant and said with a smile, Adjutant Xuan, you got up so early. I thought you were in the room and almost walked in vain. Fortunately, I bumped into it. You looking for me? What's the matter? You have a visitor who is eager to find you. Oh? Xuan Huaifeng was slightly stunned. Here he has never had any guests. The servant said, I originally came to see that it was too early to disturb you. But looking at his appearance, he seemed to have something to do, and he begged me a few more words. So, I had to run for him to see if you were awake. If he doesn't wake up, I'll call him back. Xuan Huaifeng asked, who is it? It's a guest surnamed Dai. In fact, I called a few times a while ago and said I wanted to find you. It's because you're not feeling well. I said that no matter what, I'll talk about it when you feel better. As he spoke, he secretly glanced at Xuan Huaifeng with an ambiguous expression. The affairs of Bai Xuelan and Xuan Huaifeng were tacitly understood by everyone in the mansion. But they were strictly ordered by Bai Xuelan and did not dare to bring out those blushing and heart-pounding activities in front of Xuan Huaifeng. Why did Adjutant Xuan feel uncomfortable? Everyone was like a mirror in their hearts. Dai? Xuan Huaifeng thought about it and felt strange. If the surname is Lin, it is probably Qijun. Yesterday, it broke up unhappily. It is expected that Qijun is a person and came to the door to express reconciliation. The friend who wears the surname, Xuan Huaifeng, doesn't get along very often. It is reasonable to say that people from the General Administration of Customs have official duties, and most of them seek to see Bai Xuelan or Adjutant's son, so there is no reason to call him by name. After thinking for a while, his expression suddenly changed, thinking of Dai Min whom he met at Shu Yan Pavilion. Immediately, together with the memories of Da Min's school. How did you forget him? It's really not good, people must be in a hurry and come to the door. I am ashamed. Xuan Huaifeng hurriedly asked, where is that Mr. Dai? The housekeeper corrected him, it's not a gentleman. It's a young lady. What? Xuan Huaifeng was taken aback. I stood there and thought, but I couldn't come up with a result anyway. Why don't you go and have a look? He went into the room and changed a coat in a hurry. Walking on the road, he suddenly stopped and asked the housekeeper, did the chief drink again last night? Later, the chief stopped drinking. I heard that the doctor checked him, and he was very quiet. He took an injection, took a few pills, and then fell asleep. Xuan Huaifeng felt a little better after hearing this. Seeing that the door of the small side hall was in front, he said no more and went straight to the small side hall. Entering the small side hall, there was indeed a young lady sitting in it. With shoulder-length short hair, and her hair was black and smooth. It was not like the usual wives and young ladies. dressed plainly, but not at all humble, quite pleasing to the eye at first sight. She was sitting and drinking the hot tea brought by the servant, and when she saw a handsome, slender young man come in gracefully, she put the tea bowl on the table, stood up, and smiled generously. "This must be my brother often mentioned Adjutant Xuan is? You are. Oh, my brother, Dai Min, is the vice principal of Xinsheng Elementary School. He met Adjutant Xuan once. My name is Dai Yun." Very open, and stretched out her hand as she spoke. Xuan Huaifeng shook hands with her, secretly surprised. Although Dai Yun's hands were clean and beautiful, they were rough in their grip, as if they had grown calluses. She shook hands with Xuan Huaifeng, and took a business card written with a pen from her pocket. Xuan Huaifeng took it and looked at her in surprise. "So you are the principal of Xinsheng Elementary School?" He was still very puzzled that day. It is not unusual for a person in charge of an ordinary school to see Bai Xuelan. Xinsheng Primary School asked the Chief of Customs to donate for such a major event of fundraising. Why did the principal not show up and send a deputy principal? Of course I understand now. A young woman like Dai Yun really shouldn't go to a place like Shuyan Pavilion. Dai Yun smiled and said, "Ashamed, no one is willing to take this position. I was recommended to be an idler, and I should do my best." The two sat down at the table. The servant also served new hot tea and sweet and salty desserts. Dai Yun asked, "Adjutant Xuan, my brother has probably told you about the situation of Xinsheng Elementary School?" Xuan Huaifeng felt very guilty and said apologetically, "It's my fault. That day at Shuyan Pavilion, Mr. Dai told me, so I even promised to help him. I didn't expect that when I came back, things would happen one after another, and leave him waiting. It's too bad for you guys." Dai Yun was not quite sure about what her brother had said. Few of the officials now are good people. They are perfunctory, pretending to be good people, so that others can hope for nothing, but they forget about it afterwards. This is often the case. Sure enough, after waiting for a while, there was no reply from the so-called Adjutant Xuan of the General Administration of Customs. Dai Yun saw that Dai Min called White Mansion several times, and she tried to call several times. But every time she was answered by the servant, saying that Adjutant Xuan was busy, and she was suspected of prevarication, and even felt that her brother had trusted people again. It's just that the school is really short of funds. Money is the most real thing. When it's needed, it can't be replaced by any strong spirit. For example, the oil tank in the dilapidated big kitchen in the elementary school is empty. Without a drop, the fried dishes were not oily at all, and the children could only eat with grief. As a last resort, although there are negative comments on Xuan Huaifeng's behavior, people can get money after all, and they have personally promised to help. Nowadays, it is said that female students want to donate, which is often the easiest to get. Dai Yun gritted her teeth and simply insisted, "I went to visit with my scalp, thinking that even if I look at the faces of those rich people and feel a little embarrassed, as long as I can get some funds for the school, that's all." Unexpectedly, this trip to the White Mansion was unexpected. Dai Yun was first surprised when she saw the Adjutant Xuan coming in from outside the door. His temperament and demeanor are actually better than what his brother said, and his words are sincere, polite, and responsible, and the spring breeze is blowing. Cannot help secretly sigh. It seems that the newly appointed Chief of Customs is a treasure. With such a good adjutant, why can't he do great things? While thinking about it, Dai Yun quietly looked at Xuan Huaifeng. Hearing his apology, she hurriedly said, "I'm really ashamed for saying that. Originally, it was embarrassing to ask someone for money empty-handed, and even myself was very ashamed. Now I'm as kind as the Adjutant Xuan." There are really fewer and fewer people, but because you are a good person, there are always people like me who ask for help. I know. You will not help us. As she spoke, there seemed to be a slip of black, quicksilver-like eyes glanced at Xuan Huaifeng smartly. Help education and let the country have more educated talents. This is what we should do. Xuan Huaifeng asked, how much is your primary school in short supply now? 600 yuan. Xuan Huaifeng asked in surprise. What's enough for such a small amount? Dai Yun smiled, it's the first time I've been asked to donate for so long. This is the school's expenses for 3 months and the staff's salary. Some indispensable teaching tools, buy a batch of inexpensive homework books and pens, save some for use, probably still have a little left. If there is a little left, add some rice, oil and salt to the large kitchen of the school. My brother has told Adjutant Xuan. More than half of our elementary schools are orphans, so the school often has to take care of meals. Now that the weather is not cold, there is no need to burn charcoal for heating, which saves a lot of money compared to winter. Some were sent by the parents of the students, and some were chopped by the faculty and staff. I can chop too. Look at me. Do you look like someone who knows how to take a hatchet? She opened her palms to show Xuan Huaifeng. Sure enough, there were really a few cocoons on it. The laughter is like a silver bell, very pleasant. Xuan Huaifeng said in awe, Miss Dai, compared with you, we men should be ashamed. He was eager to plan for her. 3 months, 600 yuan. I think it's still not enough. When children all go to primary school, when they are growing up, they have insufficient nutrition at this time, and they will not be able to make up for it later. Besides, how can they listen to the class when they are hungry? I think it is like this. Calculate the heating charcoal money in the winter at the end of the year and spread it out. 400 a month. If you have extra money, just buy some textbooks and reading materials, so that the children can gain some other insights. As he said, he calculated it casually. It's May now. From the beginning of May to the end of the year, counted as 8 months, the total is 3,200 yuan. 3,200 yuan? It's true that Adjutant Xuan has a good heart and is so helpful. But, with such a large number, have you really done the job? I'm afraid that there will be an opinion from Chief Pai, and you will be wrong. Xuan Huaifeng waved his hand with a smile. It's fine. You can trust me. However, there is one more question. What's the problem? This money, I promise, but I can't pay it all at once. Can I only give it for 3 months today? Dai Yun said hurriedly. Enough is enough. Then you wait here, I'll bring it to you. Xuan Huaifeng left Dai Yun in the side hall, and went to the cashier himself. The accountant surnamed Zhang was flipping the abacus up and down, reconciling the accounts one by one. When he saw Xuan Huaifeng walk in suddenly, he hurriedly took his eyes off the bridge of his nose, stood up and said with a smile, Yo. Adjutant Xuan, a rare guest. Xuan Huaifeng asked unfamiliarly. Last time, I heard Adjutant's son say that I don't need to go to the General Administration of Customs to collect my monthly salary, and I can pay it directly from the accountant here. Is it okay? Accountant Zhang nodded and said, Yes, not only you, but also Adjutant's son. Actually, I got an account from the mansion. After we make the documents, we still ask for the money from the finance department of the General Administration of Customs. What, do you want to receive a salary? Xuan Huaifeng has not received a salary since he took office. Bai Xuelan once told him that he didn't care too much at the time, but there should be 400 or 500 in his impression. He nodded and said, It's a little urgent, I want to get all the salary. Is that okay? Accountant Zhang smiled. What's wrong with this? Wait a minute, I'll settle the bill for you. He fiddled around in the large elm cabinet with rounded corners. took out a generous ledger, opened it and pinched it with his fingernails and slid down to find Xuan Huaifeng's name. Then he beat the abacus for a while, came up with the number, dipped the brush with ink, and wrote it down on the notebook one by one. Then he took out the key, opened the cash cabinet, and pointed out a stack of banknotes. Adjutant Xuan. This is your salary for the past few months. Xuan Huaifeng looked at the stack of banknotes. At least 3 of them were printed with purple borders, and there were several 100 yuan bills. And he was startled in disbelief. Seeing that he didn't answer, Accountant Zhang asked, "Is it enough? If it's not enough, you can just speak up. According to the rules in the accountant, people in your position can advance 2 months' salary. If the amount of advance is more than 2 months' salary, then we can't do the accounting. You have to ask the chief." Xuan Huaifeng came back to his senses and said, "No, it's enough." He took the money and counted it, and there was actually 3,400 yuan, still not too gullible. Frowning lightly, "Are you right? I think this amount. Won't give me more?" Accountant Zhang laughed. "Look at what you said. The people in our account, if you miscalculate the money, you have to pay for it yourself. I don't dare to give you a penny more. Your salary is given according to the position set by the General Administration of Customs." The director said that the bonus for the new year, "I'll give you a supplement, 3 months' salary, plus New Year's bonuses, and some bonuses every month, totaling 3,400 yuan. If you don't believe me, I can show you the ledger." He turned around and brought the ledger over. Xuan Huaifeng hurriedly said, "No need. Since the calculation is correct, I can rest assured. Thank you very much." Out of the account with the banknotes. When he was about to reach the side hall, he saw that there was no one around. He stood under the carved stone window, took out 200 bills, and put the remaining 3,200 in one pocket. When he arrived at the side hall, he took out the money and handed it to Dai Yun earnestly. He said gently, "Principal Dai, count the expenses until the end of the year. Originally, I was afraid that I would not be able to make it in one time, so I wanted to install it in installments. I gave it. I didn't expect it to go so smoothly." Dai Yun saw him go in and turned around, and when he came back, he handed over the banknotes. "This is really smooth that I have never encountered before. Not to mention the large amount of money." Slightly shy, she counted the money, carefully packed it in the small bag she was carrying, and squeezed the soft small bag tightly with her 5 fingers. And said in surprise and joy, "Adjutant Xuan, you really don't know how happy I am. With this money, all my troubles this year have been swept away. Thanks to you. There is no need to say these kind words, as long as I can help Xinsheng Elementary School. Also, thank the chief. Recently, it has been said outside that this chief is very capable, and he is very resolute in fighting the smoke and soil. My brother and I admire such a person from the bottom of our hearts. Although I have not seen it with my own eyes, I can only look at the person you are, Adjutant Xuan. I can imagine his style." Xuan Huaifeng was slightly stunned. Dai Yun originally asked for help from the head of the customs. No wonder she was wrong, thinking that it was Bai Xuelan who paid. But now I have clarified that it is my own money, but I am very embarrassed, and it is very gracious to others. In fact, for donations, as long as those in need can get help, it doesn't matter who gives the money. Thinking of this, I was relieved. Xuan Huaifeng didn't explain anything, just smiled. "If you have trouble in the future, don't be embarrassed. Just come to me here. I will definitely help." Dai Yun gave him a deep look with gratitude. The two chatted a few more gossips about the school, because Dai Yun also had to teach the students. Although she was reluctant, she had to stand up and say goodbye. Xuan Huaifeng personally sent her to the door of the mansion. Before she left, Dai Yun said, "Adjutant Xuan, I have a wish." Xuan Huaifeng asked, "What wish? If you are free in the future, can you take time to visit our school?" Dai Yun said, "A person with character and talent like you is enough to be a role model for the students. I hope you can meet them." Xuan Huaifeng said happily, "Okay. I'll disturb you when I have time in the future." Dai Yun said happily, "Welcome at any time." The two of them said goodbye happily. Xuan Huaifeng saw Dai Yun away, turned his head, and saw a car parked in front of the mansion with a small government flag in front. It was very arrogant. There were people in police uniforms guarding the car, and he couldn't help asking around. One of the servants said, "Who's here?" The servant said, "That's Prime Minister Pai's car. It just arrived. I probably heard that the chief was drinking with injuries at night, so he came to visit the chief." Xuan Huaifeng thought to himself, "Prime Minister Pai knowing that my cousin is so nonsense, I don't know if he will scold Bai Xuelan. If talking about the entire capital, the only one who dares to teach Bai Xuelan a lesson is the Prime Minister. That's not bad either. This guy, Bai Xuelan, should also be scolded. Otherwise, it will always be lawless and arbitrary." He thought it was very interesting for Bai Xuelan to meet his nemesis, so he returned to the mansion and walked towards Bai Xuelan's bedroom involuntarily. "When you get there, look up." Sure enough, all the servants were kicked out. There were 4 big men with long spears standing at the door of the bedroom. The uniforms on their bodies were a little different from the guards of the customs. They were probably the special guards of the Prime Minister. Xuan Huaifeng walked quietly to the window and heard a person inside angrily scolding Bai Xuelan, "Look at you. People who were shot by gunshots are so brave. Get drunk. Like a chief. It's like a 3-year-old child. I really regret calling you to the capital. If I knew you were such a nonsense, I might as well stay in Shandong and let my uncles take care of you. Then I will be at ease. You also came back from studying abroad. Someone with brains, please let me calm down for a while. Today you stab a basket, and tomorrow you offend a group of ruffians. Now it's even more annoying. People set up an ambush and feed guns. Xuelan, if you have less trouble, you will be covered in. Are you uncomfortable?" This was the first time Xuan Huaifeng heard someone scolding Bai Xuelan so bitterly. It can be seen that Bai Xuelan is not the biggest overlord in the world. There will always be someone who can heal him. The scolding came out from the red grill of the window, like a one-man show. Bai Xuelan didn't know whether it was because he was seriously injured and didn't have the strength to refute, or was scolded for being honest, and he didn't say a word anyway. Xuan Huaifeng couldn't see what was going on inside, and he didn't know what happened to him now. Measured in my mind, I always felt that the image of sick and weak lying on the bed was really not suitable for Bai Xuelan, is pondering. Suddenly I heard Bai Xuelan's voice ringing in the room. But in a casual and understated tone, he dragged and said slowly, "Okay, why are you so angry? I'm the chief of customs now, so I'm serving my country anyway. If I die now, it is to die for the country. When you become the Prime Minister, you have cousins and subordinates like me, isn't it very glamorous? Shining? Explain to your family? You said it lightly. When you are young, you don't take good care of yourself. Let me ask you, you have a gunshot wound on your hand. And you are drunk in the middle of the night, why would you die for the country? I will give you 1 ear light." The next round of conversation between the two was about the same tone. Prime Minister Pai scolded him angrily, and Bai Xuelan occasionally said a word or two, sometimes provoking him, and then coaxing him again. Xuan Huaifeng was secretly surprised. It turns out that Bai Xuelan's method is not only used for himself, even the Prime Minister is so reckless to fool him. It just seems that Prime Minister Pai is very fond of this cousin. And he also eats Bai Xuelan's suit. Slowly, his anger subsided, and his voice was not so high. When the two spoke calmly, their voices were no longer raised, and they could be heard vaguely outside. I don't know what Prime Minister Pai asked, and then there was a sneer from Bai Xuelan. Is it still necessary to investigate? Of course, it's those who deal with opium. Little son of a bitch. Dare to let me Bai Xuelan's black gun, it's enough. When my injury is healed, let's see how I deal with them one by one. Prime Minister Pai obviously didn't expect him to answer this way. And he was unhappy again. You still think the commotion is not loud enough, don't you? I just told you not to cause trouble. It turns out that you didn't listen at all. He taught him a lesson again. Bai Xuelan stopped laughing now, and said calmly, what should I do? I won't be shot by someone, and I will act like a tortoise in the future. Then, I don't have to meet anyone. Xuan Huaifeng listened to the voice through the window. Even if you can't see it, Bai Xuelan's expression at the moment floats in his mind. And it must be a cold expression. It looked very scary. Prime Minister Pai asked inside, I ask you, is life more important or face is more important? Of course. It's a face. Nonsense. Fuck your mother. Yes, all faces are discolored. I just heard Bai Xuelan yelling from inside, is this my face alone? This is the face of the whole Chinese people. You didn't see those bastards on the street outside, eating opium and tablets until their eyes turned green, and they walked all the way. Unstable. No prospects. I can't wait to catch them all. One by one. The foreigners say we are the sick man of East Asia, the newspapers say they are nonsense. I said, they are right. We are full of the sick man of East Asia. You know that animals are sick. As for the treatment, there is no need to treat people when they are ill. Use powerful medicines to treat stubborn diseases and use heavy rituals to treat troubled times. I don't believe that it's not just these dogs, mothers, and opium and tablet dealers. The Prime Minister Pai was so angry that he trembled. The voice asked, are you talking to me? Bai Xuelan was not afraid. I tell everyone that. It was as silent as a sudden death. Xuan Huaifeng's heart thumped, knowing that things were going to get worse. So he didn't dare to hesitate. He walked quickly to the door and said to the guards who were guarding the door, I need to see the chief in a hurry. The guards knew that Prime Minister Pai and Chief Pai are a family. They were not deaf. They had heard the noise inside and guessed that Xuan Huaifeng was here to save the scene, so they simply acted favorably and let them go immediately. Xuan Huaifeng knocked casually twice and opened the door without waiting for an answer from inside. As soon as he stepped in, he saw Bai Xuelan sitting on the sofa with a big dagger. Another tall man standing, and the two faced each other silently. Don't ask, it must be the powerful chief and cousin of Bai Xuelan standing there. Report to the chief. Xuan Huaifeng walked over and said to Bai Xuelan in a normal manner, Vice President Xu of Jinghua Hospital has an urgent matter and wants to interview you. Bai Xuelan asked, what is the urgent matter? He didn't make it clear. Subordinate guess. It should be the treatment plan for the president's current injury. I am here to entertain the Prime Minister. Before Bai Xuelan said a word, Prime Minister Pai cut off unhappily. I don't need any hospitality, just go with yours. Turning around, he strode out of the room. The few guards who had come with him outside hurried behind him. Xuan Huaifeng turned his head and watched several figures turn around at the stone gate, probably heading towards the gate of the mansion. This was a sigh of relief. Since he came in, Bai Xuelan kept looking at him slowly from beginning to end. At this moment, he smiled suddenly and asked Xuan Huaifeng, are you here to rescue the driver? Xuan Huaifeng's wrist pulled him closer. Xuan Huaifeng could not have imagined that he was still smiling and humorless, and asked angrily, why do I save you? You are not the emperor. Bai Xuelan said, anyway. Thank you for your kindness. After a pause, the conversation suddenly changed again. However, despite your good intentions, you have done bad things. In fact, I was taking this opportunity to fight with the Prime Minister, but you interrupted it. You said, "How can you compensate me?" Xuan Huaifeng was stunned, and his 5 internal organs were almost displaced. This is really called a dog biting Lu Dongbin. Xuan Huaifeng's face tightened, and he said coldly, "That's easy. I'll help you bring the Prime Minister Pai back." He turned around and was about to leave. Bai Xuelan hurriedly wrapped an arm around his waist, and said in a pleasing manner, "Don't go, don't go. I'm so sick and confused, can't I talk nonsense in my head? Why are you so angry at me? Oops, my wound hurts so much." Xuan Huaifeng turned his back to him. He simply put his face on Huaifeng's waist and moaned genuinely. Where does this look like an all-powerful customs chief? Totally a market rascal. Xuan Huaifeng knew that at least 7 points of his pain calls were fake, but he didn't really want to leave him, so he turned around, looked down at him, and said solemnly, "Chief, if you feel uncomfortable, just lie down and rest, and don't work so much unnecessary energy." Bai Xuelan obeyed. "You're right, I should lie down, please help me." Xuan Huaifeng couldn't refuse. Can only come over and help him lie down on the bed. Please take good care of your wounds. Xuan Huaifeng said this and was about to leave but was caught by Bai Xuelan's wrist again. He couldn't help but feel impatient, and was about to speak when Bai Xuelan said, "I'll just say one sentence. If you let me say it, I'll let go." Xuan Huaifeng sighed helplessly and said, "Okay. You say." Bai Xuelan lay on the pillow, raised his eyes, looked at him deeply for a long time, and then whispered, "I will never drink again in the future." Xuan Huaifeng was stunned for a moment. Then know what he means by that. Look at your bandaged palm, the wound seems to be sore but not sore, itchy but not itchy. In my heart, it seems like joy but not joy, and it seems sad but not sad. It's not an ordinary taste at all. For a while, I didn't know how to answer, then said, "You have finished speaking, you can always let me go." Bai Xuelan still held him and asked, "Do you believe me?" Xuan Huaifeng said but he hesitated. Of course, he can't say no. But the letter was more hypocritical, as if the two had agreed on something else. Xuan Huaifeng refused to answer, only said, "You don't have to take this matter to heart. You were already drunk last night, and I wasn't careful enough myself to stand firm, otherwise I wouldn't have fallen." Bai Xuelan was full of surprises. "Aren't you mad at me? No matter how stingy I am, I won't care about a drunk person." When I couldn't lie down any longer, I sat up with one hand on the bedsheet, and my eyes were shining. "Since the previous grudge is gone, I beg you one thing. When I was forced to lie in bed to recuperate, you can find whatever you want. Come and read this original English novel to me. Although my French is good, I have forgotten all the English I have learned before. If I encounter foreigners in the future, it will be a great shame. Your English is the best, I don't count on you, and who do I count on?" He turned Xuan Huaifeng into his own English teacher.